Welcome back, everyone, to Nothing to Fear. In tonight's episode, part 2, I want to start out very simply by defining the concept of fear. A lot of people are afraid of things and they don't even really know why. I suppose it's a lot of influence from the media, some from your parents, some that you rightfully should be afraid of. You should be afraid of reaching out and touching a snake. That's stupid. You should be afraid of losing loved ones. That's a fear that we all share. But I want to go in depth and talk to you more about what this demon we call fear is and what it means to us. Well, what it means to me is a concept. Now, it wasn't always this way, but now fear to me is merely a concept like algebra or tidal shifts. It's words on paper that can never really be defined by the human condition. In fact, we are the beings that define the conditions that determine things like fear and love and hate. And I wanted to take a little while to talk about it. There are many kinds of fear. Apprehension is fear. Worry is fear. And a lot of times, hatred and anger is fear. It's all based in the same root cortex of our brains. It's the same response. It just has many different manifestations. Sometimes they can be deceptive. They can even be positive manifestations. For example, the aforementioned reaching out to touch a snake. Well, we have that response in our brains and predetermined in our genetics for a reason. But what really lends the power behind this strange concept we call fear? Well, scientifically, it likens back to our almost simian primate beginnings. At one point, no one will deny it, we were probably cavemen. We're probably a lot more primitive a society than we are now. And so fear of the unknown, fear of strange thing making weird noises out in the brush, well, that was a healthy thing for a caveman to do at the time. And I'm sure that some levels of fear are necessary to the human condition, if not perfectly reasonably necessary to it. It is what it is. Fear is a concept. Fear is, by its nature, an intangible thing. You cannot touch fear. You cannot hold fear. You cannot taste fear. You cannot feel it. And if you call it to be, a lot of times you still can't make it happen the way it really happens. What are the triggers of fear? Well, generally they tend to be things that we want to avoid because we know better. In other terms, we've been hurt before, we know what it feels like, and we don't want to be hurt twice. That response, that pulling away from it, pulling away from a hot burner, it's the very same thing. It's a self-preservation response. Just like a bass striking at a lure. All it's trying to do is live. It's just trying to protect itself. And fear is one of the base human emotions that we've completely lost control of these days. I know I'm not a particularly rabid believer or a person who pushes his faith and beliefs on others, but I do think it's relevant that I mention that it is defined in several scriptures that Yea, I shall not fear, because thou art with me. You gotta wonder where that came from. Maybe it's a lesson. Maybe someone long ago realized the same thing I realized, is that the mind is built within walls based on fear. And in turn, those fears limit you. In turn, those fears enslave us. They encage us within a prison made by and for our own minds. You know, a lot of people this election cycle wanted hope and change, change and hope. And things did change. And we did hope. And, you know, there's still a lot of problems escalating in this place we call America. And I think that's a travesty. Really, I do. I've fought for this place. I love this place. I love this place I'm in right now. That's why I'm looking at it with you. That's why I'm showing you the world through my eyes. That's where I'm staying. Isn't it gorgeous? I've always wanted to stay at a place like this. Now I have. And it was all because I wasn't afraid to come out here. And I think that is a valuable lesson to us all. 90% of our fears will never come to pass, nor do they ever enter our lives. Fears of what people will think about you, what they will do to you, what will happen to you, what you might become as a consequence of it. This is all a lie. There's nothing out here to be afraid of. I'm standing in a salt marsh with rattler. I can hear animals moving around. Am I afraid? Is there any reason to be? They're scarier of me than I am of them. As a matter of fact, once I know that there is nothing to fear, the world becomes a much friendlier place. Where things don't threaten you, where they don't make you worry. You know, as a very wise friend of mine, Mark, and I'll give you a plug from the Nuggets of Truth, told me in a video of his, chickens don't worry. Maybe you shouldn't either. You know, I believe that's where fear takes root, in worry. Legitimate concern for yourself or others, and it just escalates, and other people take advantage of it, and before long, it becomes fear. And I don't know if there's any truth to Yoda's words. I remember as a kid, you know, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hatred, and that is the path of the dark side. There might be something to that. Because I know part of that whole sentence is true. Fear leads to anger. And anger just leads down that same road. And trust me, my friends, you know, this might be a serious segment on my show, but I will assure you that the road to hell, even though I've never seen it, is surely paved in good intentions. Like this great city here, how was it built? I wonder who was the first poor bastard to be afraid to step on this sandy piece of weedy coral they excuse for an island and go in and actually see just the bounty that it really was. I wonder who that guy was. He must have had brass balls. Because I know even me, I'm not afraid of much anymore, but I can remember a time where I'd have been real afraid to do something like that. Another concept came earlier was when somebody caught a lobster. And another guy said, well, damn, I wonder who the brave soul was who first tried one of those. And I got thinking about it, and really, I'll eat some lobster all day long. I would eat lobster every day of my life for the rest of my life and be content. I love lobster. I'll eat anything with a shell. And I started thinking, you know, I used to be afraid of bugs. I used to be so deadly afraid of bugs I wouldn't go near a bed if I saw a silverfish crawling on a wall in a separate room. And now I'm doing a series about fear and why it's irrelevant. I don't know. It's just some things to think on. But I assure you, everyone, verily I say unto you, there is nothing in this world to fear. To act upon, maybe. To prepare for, yes. But to fear, can we say there is no reason? A wise man, one of the wisest I ever met, once told me that there is no sense in blowing sunshine up your ass. And those are probably the wisest words I ever heard in my life. Because truly there is no sense in blowing smoke. There's no sense in calling things like they aren't. I'm out here alone in some backwater of Florida where anybody could kill me right now. I'm unarmed. Money in my pocket. You see me flinching or rolling around my shoulder? No. Because a lot of these statistics are inflated by, let's just say, people that it elevates. And as long as they have you in that amount of fear under their thumb, they can basically get you to do whatever they want. If you were afraid I was going to kill your daughter, would you do whatever I said? If you were afraid I was going to hurt your mother, would you do whatever I told you to? I wouldn't. I do not negotiate with mental terrorists. Keep my mother, if that's what you want. If that is your terms, go ahead. I'm not afraid, neither is she. And that is why there is nothing to fear.